Hello and welcome to another edition of the Weighing Room, where today myself, James Mackie, is joined again by Frankie Foster and Paul Callaghan. How are we, gents? How's everything been this week?
All good, thank you very much. I've landed back in Cheltenham, so I'm keen. I'm a bit early, but yeah, got back last night and just getting set up and ready for the week. Really,
That's great. Paul, how are you?
Yeah, likewise, keeping busy. Looking forward to Cheltenham now. From Carrington Cross this time, not Dundalk. So, but no, yeah, looking forward to the week ahead.
Well, great stuff. So, with it now being less than a week to the all-important 2022 Cheltenham Festival, the boys have narrowed down their naps, sleighs and each-way picks for each of the 4 days in what will be our final podcast before the festival. So, we'll get straight into it. And the first day of the meeting, as we all know by now, the Tuesday sees the races like the Supreme, the Arkle, Champion Hurdle, all great races. But starting with you here, Paul, what would you say is your nap on day one?
My nap, it'll be over pretty sharpish. I'm with Constitution Hill in the opener. I thought he was very good last time out. I think if he brings his A game, I think the rest will need their triple A's to get the better of him. I thought last time out, I thought he was serious. The distance he put from between himself and the second, from the run, from the final flight to the winning line, I was working that day, and I did say, from looking at Nico, the look around on halfway up the run in was, I don't think he and he said it after an interview, he didn't actually realise how fast he was going on heavy ground. I think he's going to be better on better ground. There's not an awful lot of rain forecast, I think, at Cheltenham between now and Tuesday afternoon. So it's Constitution Hill for me. So Gerhard probably had excuses had he got beaten at Leverson last time out. His jumping wasn't as good, but he got the job done. He's clearly a talented individual. But and I do think he gave the impression that he will be better with the lead. But I think even with an ongoing day, so Gerhard, I think Constitution Hill will still have enough.
So Frankie, coming for you now for your nap, are you looking at the Supreme as well, or are you looking elsewhere?
I am. We've got off to a good start because I'm Constitution Hill too. Yeah. That'll probably push it out a bit. Both of us napping up Constitution Hill. That's a £5 added for Con Hill. But yeah, I'm in a similar boat. I just think so impressive. I know there's a lot of chat coming into a Supreme only off the back of 2 runs is not what you want, or at least on trends, it's not what we've seen in the past from previous winners. But the manner in which he won was just so impressive. And I really like, out of all of these horses, if you look at John Bond, Dysett Dynamo, maybe even Sir Gerhard, Constitution Hill just looks like an out-and-out hurdler. He's a bit littler. He's quick over his hurdles. Nico described him as push button. And, this is a very competitive Supreme where the top 4, 5, 6 could come out and be impressive horses for the future. But Constitution Hill for the present, for the Supreme this year, I think has a very strong chance. And I'll be napping up Constitution Hill whether Sir Gerhard goes in this or not. It's a get out of jail free card for me if Sir Gerhard goes to the Ballymore. But yeah, Constitution Hill with or without Sir Gerhard.
Yeah, I think two solid shouts. I think, like you say, if Sir Gerhard goes to the Ballymore, I think it makes his task a lot easier. And I'll probably be with Constitution Hill as well. But it's one of them, isn't it? The Supreme. If you want to put your nap in the Supreme, it's either going to make it.
Yeah. Well, I didn't want to be boring. I said to this, this is a trickier than I expected task of picking naps and lays for the week. And I didn't want to be boring and go too short with my naps. And equally, I didn't want to be easy on myself and start laying things at a price. So I'm trying to get the shorties beat, and I'm trying to find a nap in a competitive race.
So moving on to the lay of the first day of the festival, Frankie, we'll stick with you. Who have you picked out as the one you think you can get beat on the day?
Well, it follows on from what I'm just saying, really, because I've changed my mind on this 101 times. I've probably actually given Edwardstone as a selection in previous podcasts, and now I'm coming in with Edwardstone as the lay of day one. But it's not so much on the horse's ability; it's more down to the competitiveness of the race, and maybe you could even describe this as a slightly weak Arkle. And based off of that, going in, I don't think Edwardstone's a strong favourite. And you're also trying to weigh up English and Irish form, which I think is quite tricky. You know, how strong is that form of the Dublin Racing Festival, Blue Lord and Riviere d'Italia, and even St. Sam as well. You've got Auton Color, who's slightly unexposed. You've got Magic Days, who everyone seems to be talking about how keen Henry de Bromhead is on that horse. So there's a lot in there that's quite threatening to the favourite. And for that reason, I would take Edwardstone on, despite him not having many clinks in his armour. But that would be the one I challenge as a favourite on day one.
I think this is the thing, isn't it, with Edwardstone, that you've either one way or the other. You're either looking at Edwardstone, who's like done nothing wrong, and think he should be the right favourite and the right price, or you look down the field and you look at even Course of Blind, Magic Days at 14s and 12s, and they've got just as good a
I don't know what it is about Edwardstone, and maybe some discredit to Alan King. If you said was Edwardstone a Mullins horse, would we all be a bit keener? But there's something that's just not quite sexy about this horse, and I can't put my finger on it. But he's won well, he's jumped well, he's travelled well, he's ticked every box, but I can't get excited by Edwardstone, and I don't know why, but it puts me off.
I do think that Edwardstone on the first day will be a favourite that many will be trying to take on, along with the bookies, and I think his price will probably drift on the day, with if the Irish come in and back some of their horses. So
I think it's one of them. I think Gabagnaco. I think it's notable that Gavin Cromwell has obviously supplemented him. He's a horse he hasn't really delivered what he's promised, I think, in the past. If you go back to his novice hurdle form, he's decent form there, and I'm quite disappointed. He's a horse I tipped up, I think, last season or the season before, 2 seasons ago maybe, as a horse to follow for that year. I think he has been quite disappointing overall. He was a good second in the Drinmore 2 starts ago, and I think Gavin had said since his run at Limerick was maybe a little soon after that. But he could have a bit of a shout at 16-1, and the fact that Connections, he's obviously going well at home. The fact that Connections obviously supplemented him for this race.
Venetia switched one over as well, hasn't she?
Brave Siaski as well was going for the Daniel, but now going for the Arkle. This is what I mean. There's so many. It's not the greatest renewal of the Arkle, but it's got a lot of, would you say, above average horses rather than a one special horse that are all going against it. So you can see why you would take on Edwardstone. So, Paul, coming to you, who's your lay on the first day?
My lay is Does He Know from the Kim Bailey yard in the Ultimate. I think Does He Know, he's only been beaten once over fences. That was at the open meeting at Cheltenham. But I think his biggest danger is himself in the prelims. I think his race could be ran before he gets to the start. I'd just be afraid of that. Cheltenham Tuesday is going to be absolutely hopping. And I think Bassey's going to have his work cut out just to keep a lid on him. There's going to be competition for the pace up front as well. So, Does He Know, I'd be looking to take him on.
What would his job be, Bassey, to, how do you go about keeping a horse calm and ready? Or is there not much you can do?
I think I'd imagine they may get on him in the chute, if possible, keep his feet out of the irons. You'd have a handler with him for as long as possible just to try and keep a lid on him. He may even go to the start early. Yeah. And just walk him round. I'd imagine to be a few pats down the neck, a bit of talking to the horse. The horse obviously will be well familiar with. They'll be well familiar with each other by now. Yeah. But you just try and be as quiet as you can beforehand. Even trotting down to the start when them first 4 strides on a horse that's a bit buzzy, you don't realise it, but you'll see horses that are a bit buzzy. They'll walk, go into a gentle trot, then break into a hack canter. That is so crucial because that could be gone in 2 strides. You trot, you set off too quick, you ask the horse to go on, and the horse is already going forward, and they just shoot off. It's a half a second, the race could be over like that. I'd imagine he may go down to the start early and just feet out of the irons, keep him as quiet as possible and be as quiet with him. And then hopefully in the pace will be frantic over the first 2. If he gets a couple of lengths on them, he'd be looking to slow it down from there, but I don't think he's going to be left alone up front.
Yeah, I think with the Cheltenham Festival especially, and over the last year, there's been a lot of horses that are buzzy horses but haven't had any crowds there, so they've probably got away with it. But this year's Cheltenham Festival, it's something you've definitely got to take into consideration with horses that are a bit buzzy and bit just want to get on with it and stuff like that. So yeah, it's a very good reason to take him on in that race. And with the race, how competitive it is anyway, you don't see many favourites really get away with winning in the Ultima. So on the last bit of the day one, so Frankie, will come to you with this. Who's your each way pick on the Tuesday?
I'm being a bit cheeky here because she's about 5-1. But Stormy Island, it's not much of a big price, but I think it's a great each way bet. And just a real interesting horse with the switch and the change of form when she went to Nichols. You've got to almost discount that period. She went to Nichols November 2020 and was recording RPRs of in the 130s, but before that 150s and running at Cheltenham. And after that, most recently, again, back into the 150s, won a grade 2 hurdle, won a mare's champion hurdle, a poor run in the Hatton's Grace, but just outpaced and not quite good enough for that. But, you know, she's not a champion hurdle horse. She's coming here to the mare's hurdle. And I think at 5-1, maybe slightly overpriced and underestimated for a horse that has gone around Cheltenham plenty of times. She's got a lot of experience. She's back to her best, if not better, under Mullins. And another form boost, most recent run behind Brewing Up a Storm. One beating Brewing Up a Storm. Brewing Up a Storm did fall at last, but they had a race on coming to the last. So a cheeky one for an each way. It's not much of a price, but 5-1. I can't see Stormy Island out of places with a lot of Cheltenham experience and back to her best, if not better, with Willie Mullins.
Yeah, I think Stormy Island's a great cover bet, as in from an each way angle, because I think it's got a great chance of winning the race. But with so many similar level horses going up against each other, she could just get beat on the day and maybe not come out of the place. So it covers your money. So yeah, a good each way pick. Paul, who are you looking at for your each way pick on the Tuesday?
I'm all over Indefatigable each way. She's around about 20-1, 25-1 at the moment. Her course form around Cheltenham is terrific. I backed her in this race last year. She was just touched off for the place and she finished 4th at 33-1. I can't believe she's about 20-25. I think she's way overpriced. Probably she might even go off maybe 12-16-1 come Tuesday afternoon. She was 4th in this race last year, as mentioned, off a mark of 149. She ran an absolute cracker. She lines up here off 147. She won the Martin Pipe off 145. And I just, I know the last run was a little bit listless. She needs to put that behind her. But she generally does come around. Her course form can't be ignored. And she generally does come to form this time of year. So Indefatigable for me to hit the placings.
Yeah, 2 good shouts. So moving on to day 2 of the festival, and again brings us some great races like the Ballymore, Brown Advisory, Novices Chase, and the Champion Chase. Paul, we'll start with you on this. Who have you looked at the Wednesday as your best bet?
You'll not get rich if he wins, but Facile Vega. I thought his performance at the Dublin Racing Festival had the X factor. I just thought it was something else. He had good horses in behind him. Winners. I know there was a horse that was the horse that finished 2nd or 3rd. There was one in behind that's come out since and got beaten. But the manner he did it was, again, the distance he put between himself and the second in the space of about a half a furlong was something else. He was incredible. And I know Gordon's horse, it's What Unites Us. I know that was fancy. That won his bumper on debut at Navan quite impressively. And I know that he was quite fancy going into that run at Leopardstown. So I'm all over Facile Vega here. Yeah,
big chance. I think it's the best bumper performance we've seen all season. Definitely. It's just whether he can recreate it in what's a better race, but definitely got a big chance. So Frankie, who have you looked on at day 2 as your best bet?
Day 2, to Gerhard in the Ballymore if he goes there. So I'll give you 2, but I think if the Ballymore's a lot weaker than the Supreme, and given that everybody's talking about Sir Gerhard having the ability to go to both, I think if he did turn up in the Ballymore, he would win. And I think from a betting perspective, around 11-10 non-runner, no bet, I think that's a fair price, because if he does get confirmed, he'll be odds on within seconds. So yeah, Sir Gerhard for the Ballymore if he runs. If he wasn't, I'd probably be going with Brave Man's Game. And the angle I'm kind of taking on this, and I'll say this again when I when I have Galopin Deschamps as mine to get beat in the Turners, but Galopin's in between. You know, he could go for both, might go for either. They haven't quite made their mind up on his ideal trip. Brave Man's Game is definitely going the 3 miles, and Bob Ollinger's a powerful horse that's definitely going 2-3. And Galopin sat in the middle might just get caught out. So Brave Man's Game, I think, would have the better of Galopin Deschamps and Long on Presse as well, and even Ahoy Signor. I think he beat him too comfortably at Kempton, was it? For that to be turned around coming here to Cheltenham. So, so Gerhard's an easy one, I think, but he may not. We don't know where he's going. So besides that, Brave Man's Game as a strong bet for me.
I think, you look at it, it does look like now Sir Gerhard will probably go for the Ballymore if you're reading your exchanges, but the exchanges have been wrong in the past. But I think it's probably the more likely race with Dysart Dynamo going to the Supreme. And Brave Man's Game, he looks a solid shout, doesn't he? If you like you've just explained, the run over 3 miles already. I know he's got to take on a horse, Senor, and Long Presse is interesting now going for this race. I think that's the one. That's the only big danger, I would say, but definitely got solid claims. So, Frankie, we'll start with you on this one. Who have you picked as your lay for day 2?
Well, Paul won't be pleased because I'm going to try and get Facile Vega beat. I don't know. I find it too. Again, it's one of those. I'm not necessarily saying it will lose, but I think it's too short. So I'd like to try and take Facile Vega on at the prices. I was Googling, you might have heard me type away in the background as Paul was chatting. I haven't actually landed on the numbers, but the stats on Mullin's so-called second strings in bumpers versus his odds-on shots do not bode well. Even last year, Sir Gerhard was the shorter, was the longer of the two. Outkill Crew was odds on. I think who else have we got in here from Mullins? Briar Hill, Champagne Fever, Appreciate It. I can't remember, but if you look back through Mullins' winners, they're all knocking around about 12 to 1, and a lot of his chances that are odds on get beat. So that doesn't bode in Facile Vega's favour. The other would be the fact that was it Patrick that rode him at Dulwich Race Festival?
Yeah.
Got off him and supposedly said, wait till you see the other one we've got at home in Redemption Day, who he seemed to think was a better horse, but that might just be him playing mind games. So
maybe Patrick says some things sometimes that he doesn't really mean.
You might be right, but those stats, adding up against how short Facile Vega is, and the fact that you have got another in here in American Mike that Jamie Codd's quite keen on, and there's not many better to judge a bumper horse than Mr. Codd. So all of those things considered, he's just a bit short for me, but I've got to agree, he was very, very impressive at Dublin Race Festival, so it will be no surprise if he did the same.
Yeah, this is the thing that we love about horse racing. It's the different opinions of different horses and how you look at it. Like, as we were saying earlier when Paul put it up as the nap, you can see why you would put it up as a nap, because if it runs to the same ability as it did the Dublin Race Festival, nothing should beat it. And it has to be a serious horse to beat it. But then on the flip side, these are bumper horses. You don't know what's going to improve a certain amount. I think, again, it's going to be one that might drift slightly on price if American Mike Redemption Day do get backed in. But again, we'll have to see. It's a fascinating renewal of the bumper.
It might be one of those that's too obvious, so people are trying to take it on, and really the smart players just to say, look, this horse was very good. Let's stick with it.
Again, it's another race. I think we touched on. Does he know on the first day on Tuesday? It's another race where the prelims are going to be the crucial. The parade ring and what have you. A lot of these young horses, inexperienced. A case as well of what handles it best, or who handles it best. I can remember one year Graham Lee riding a horse called Lennon for Howard Johnson, and at the pull-up area he crashed through the horse took off with him down the chute, and when he got him turned at the bottom to canter back down the course to the 2 mile start, he ended up crashing through the white rails, the pull-up rails down at the bottom. The horse just completely blew his lid down at the start, and it was a case of race over. So the prelims are going to be crucial here as well. I am looking to take on an Ergamine in the champion chase. his jumping is this huge asset. It's huge. But for me at Ascot, he didn't find an awful lot when push came to shove. He didn't get the better. Shishkin got in tight to both the second last and the last fence. He didn't get to, he didn't come out on top there. So Shishkin has his favourite hill to climb here. So in what is the equivalent to a home game at St James's Park for Newcastle, I think it's a home game here for Shishkin, and I'm looking to take on Energumene.
I think another interesting thing with Energumene is who Paul Townend actually picks on the day. Does he go for Shacken? Does he go for Energumene? That will dictate a price, maybe change if he does go for Shacken. But like you say, there's a lot that went in his favour that day, Energumene, to go and beat Shishkin, and he still couldn't do it. So can he go to Cheltenham where he's never raced, where Shishkin has raced twice and beat him? So yeah,
Shacken would be the danger for me. I think I'd be in the same camp. Can't see Energumene winning, but I'd be slightly scared of Shacken as a Shishkin backer.
Yeah, but I'm disappointed, but the two of them don't, they're huge, they're serious engines, but neither just finds an awful lot when push comes to shove. Whatever they do on the bridle, that's about it. If they can break hearts of their opponents on the bridle, if you're still there turning for Hobe, or if you're within half a chance coming to the last fence, if they get into a battle, they're going to find pretty.
I agree. I think the only way you'd get Shishkin beat maybe is if maybe Shacken takes up the running a bit further out and increases the tempo and gets Shishkin in a bit of bother earlier than he'd like. But I agree. If they're all coming to the last together, I can't see anything beating Shishkin.
No,
it's a fascinating contest, isn't it? But again, it's one of the races everyone's looking forward to on the day. So yeah, definitely a good lay pick from us. And finally, for day 2, Paul, we'll start with you on this. Who's your each way shout?
My each way shout, I'm with Classic Getaway in the Ballymore. He's 2 from 3 under rules. He was far too keen when a beaten odds-on favourite by Cashbook at Clonmel back in January. He was very impressive at Punchestown last time out. He probably learned a great deal more then. He settled a lot better. Plenty of pace in here, so there shouldn't be an issue getting him settled. And I think he's a horse that's learning on the job, and I think we'll see. He's right about 14-1, and I expect him to outrun those odds.
Yeah, Classic Getaway was, I think, very expensive horse. I think how much? 570,000 was it, or something like that?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
570,000. Yeah, so a lot to live up to. And if 16-1, if it does live up to that price tag, it's got a great chance, hasn't it? And again, Cheveley Park, they don't do bad round Cheltenham, do they, at the festival? So
I'll be pleased if he does win. I got carried away and started hammering it for Cheltenham at about 25s and 20s, hoping that I would have stole a price, but he's still around 20-1. So I haven't exactly got an attractive anti-post slip, but I have still got the slips.
Sorry, lads. I know people, Frankie and James. I know people on him. I've backed him at 40-1 each way for this. I think they're quite sweet on him to run a big race.
Okay. Well, this is the thing we've said about the Ballymore, that it's maybe not the strongest renewal of all time, and even though you'll have maybe Sir Gerhard in there, who is potentially a special horse, you've still got the element of Sir Gerhard's never gone over 2 mile 5, and Classic Getaway looks like a horse that probably does want this sort of trip. So yeah, we'll never know, but again, at the prices, definitely worth putting in as an each way shout. So Frankie, day 2, who's the each way pick?
Day 2, again, it's another one. Will he go to Supreme or Ballymore? But 3 Stripe Life, I don't know if I'd fancy him as much in the Supreme. But I definitely think he's got a run in. I think he's overpriced. I can't see why. Have you got the price up in front of you?
Yeah, he's now 8-1 now.
8-1, okay, so slightly shorter. Shorter, yeah. But I think it's got a good chance of running into a place. Came out the same bumper as Sir Gerhard, Kilcrew, Cheltenham, and that was his second start and looked almost green coming up the hill then. He was very inexperienced and still finished well enough. Hasn't been as, like you say, hasn't been as impressive. He was second to Mighty Potter, who's got a fair chance at the festival. And he's been getting beat. He was beat by Sir Gerhard at Dublin Racing Festival, but he's been getting beat jumping pretty poorly. He's made a mess of many of his hurdles. And that's a big part of winning a race, is being able to jump. But has he still got some improvement left in him? Is he going to be better over his hurdles? He travels well. He finishes his race strong over slightly further in the Ballymore. He always seems to be coming back at whoever's in front of him. So over slightly further with better jumping. I think it's very strong chance to run into a place. I probably like him less for the Supreme, but hopefully it looks more likely to go to Ballymore if he's shortening up. So 3-stripe life would be a good each way bet for me.
I think, yeah, non-runner, no bet. You might as well have a go. You
Yeah.
can get your money back regardless. So, but I think as well for yourself, 3-shot life is a bit of a cliff horse, isn't it? You follow it everywhere it goes.
Yeah.
If you didn't put it up and it did win the Ballymore, I think you'd be kicking yourself.
I've honestly since that Cheltenham bumper, really, when I thought, it finished its race well, having looked very kind of novice-y, and it was a second start behind 2 impressive horses. I've kind of always had this horse down to improve and do better than he has done. But what, 1, 2, 3, 4, this will be a 6th start. There's improvement left in him yet, James. The belief is still there.
I think he's definitely got a big chance if he goes to the Ballymore. I prefer it for the Ballymore than the Supreme personally. I don't know which way they're going to go with it, but I just think the way it's jumped over the 2 miles against probably quicker horses, it'll suit it better to go in the Ballymore where you can give it a bit of a chance over a longer trip. And I think in time, maybe they'll go over the fences next season, but I think that will be a horse that will go up in trip regardless. I don't think it'll stay at 2 miles, but I might be wrong.
I agree. And so another shout would be Embittered if he didn't. Just a horse, I think that it just one of those you look at it and you think they're trying to win a handicap here. They entered it into handicap hurdle the year before, went off favourite last year when falling, and then since has been just running in graded races. And if you look at form alone, you would say not doing a lot, but been running in strong races, and I think only a pound difference in weight maybe coming back into it. So I think it's one of those, you look at what they've done with it throughout the year and you'd say Cheltenham might be the target for Embittered. Yeah,
definitely been set up for this race. This is one of the biggest market moves over the last week, actually. 14s, 12s into 7s now, looking at it. Might be able to get slightly bigger at different places, but generally across the board, 7 and 8s. And I think you bang on, it has been set up for this race. It went off last year in the Grand Annual at 9-2. So if it was generally a 92 chance to go and win that race for it, it's falling off what, £1 lower, £1 higher?
Yeah.
Off what, nearly double the price? You've got to really look at it and think it's been set up for it again, hasn't it? So I think definitely got a big chance. And especially in the Grand Annual on the day, you might get extra places. So definitely worth a go. So moving on to the penultimate day of the Cheltenham Festival. And this looks a real tricky day. Obviously, you've got the Stayers, the Turners and the Ryanair, but also quite a lot of handicaps on the day that makes it tricky for punters. And I think this is the day where the bookies do like to kind of strike back if they've had a bad 2 days. So, Paul, where are we looking at for the nap on day 3?
This was tough, in my opinion. Old Paisley Park was at the top of the pile, but I've sided with, in our previous preview, I've gone with that Imperial Alcazar. He was one of my naps for the handicap, and I'm going to stick with him. I thought he was very good last time out at Cheltenham in a race that should have given a victory, that should have given plenty of confidence here. His run before that at Chepstow, his jumping just lacked a bit of fluency. One man is Paddy Brennan, who certainly won't lack for confidence in the saddle, and I think this is their time to shine. Yeah,
I think it's definitely got a big chance, hasn't it? I think if you look across the preview nights, a lot of shrewdies have been putting this up as well. And like you said earlier on the previous podcast, that race it won at Cheltenham, it's got a great record going into races like this at the Cheltenham Festival. So it's definitely got a big chance. Frankie, who are you looking at as your nap for day 3?
I'm going to be boring and go Allaho. I couldn't not, just because, again, looking at the betting, I think this is the most fairly priced shorty. So there's many that I fancy, but I probably wouldn't back at a short price. Allaho, I still think is backable. Just so impressed. Probably the most impressive winner of last year's festival. Has done nothing wrong since. And there's nothing really that's coming into this field that would worry me a huge amount, which is probably the key thing. I think where there's a lot of short price favourites that I fancy but aren't really backable, it's because there is a more of a competitive element and there's unknown horses, or, you know, even like the Champion Chase, for example, there's top class horses that could do it. The Ryanair is probably one where I think the rest of the field is less talented. The only unexpected one is Chamblou, but I still think Allaho is, I think I think that's a banker of the week for me, Allaho.
Yeah, I'll completely agree with you. I think it is the bank of the week, even though it's slightly short now. I just look at the race and I think there could only be 5, maybe 6 horses that actually turn up against Allaho in this. I think it's very similar to the Turners. I think there could be like 4 horses that only turn up in that. So probably at this point, it's only going to get shorter. I can't see it getting bigger. Like even with the book trying to take it off, I just think Allaho, it does look a bit obvious that when everyone's going for it, it never really works out that well. But I'd be very. I think he could run 5, 6 pounds lower than what it runs to and still win the race. I really do. So I think it's definitely nap material. Paul, who's the lay on day 3 for yourself?
My lay is coming in the stairs hurdle. I think Flora and Porter and Classical Dream, I think they both run their best races when going forward and being allowed to dictate. I'm going to anticipate that they will take each other on. Fractions will be far too fast and it just might set up nicely for Paisley Park. So anticipating how things go is Flora and Porter and Classical Dream. I think I'll be taking them on.
Yeah, the stayers, it's fascinating, isn't it, really? Because you expect them to go on and you can have horses at a much bigger prices, like Paisley Park, but even bigger prices that will come off the pace that could pick up the pieces. You look at Lisnagar Oscar a few years ago, did something very similar to come off the pace and win the race. Not saying it will do it this year, but horses like that are pretty much set up to go well off the pace, I think, this year, definitely. And Time Hill, obviously, another you could throw into the mix that could track them and go. So definitely, I think it's definitely a race to take on the favourites in, if there ever is one for the grade ones. And like we've said before, they're just nutters, aren't they? These days are like horses.
But like with these two, like Classical Dream got a flyer at Leopardstown 2 starts ago. I know Flora and Porter got left. I think Paul Townend was, he was looking back at the starter. But the two of them, you could see like Danny Mullins and Paul, like they're going to be, the first furlong and a half or so is going to be fairly rapid here. And if neither, I'd imagine, given their form when being allowed to dictate, neither jockey will want to give in the first half mile. So I'm going to anticipate that it just could set up nicely for Paisley. Yeah,
I think it's a fair lay. So Frankie, day 3 lay, who are we looking at?
Day 3 later, I was one step ahead of you. So I'm getting carried away with my each way chance. Galopin des Champs, again, the same reasoning. It's no doubt it may be one of the most impressive novice chasing performances of the season that we saw. But it's trying to pick a spot for it where it could be either Brave Man's Game over 3 miles or Bob Olinger over 2 mile 3, and it looks like they're going to the Turners. And yes, Galopin des Champs probably has the best chance here, being able to nick a few or half length here and there on jumping against Bob Olinger. But I just think the power, the speed, good ground or better ground for Bob Olinger, which he performed so well on at last year's festival, will see him just a bit too powerful and too quick for Galopin des Champs. So I'd be trying to get Galopin des Champs beat at the prices for sure. As I said a few times, because he's stuck in between where does he go? More trip or less trip, and Bob Olinger is, again, one of the most impressive winners of last year's festival and hasn't done a whole lot wrong. Everybody's been trying to everybody's been picking holes in his jumping, but I think he set a high bar for himself, didn't he? He set a high standard, and we wanted to see Bob Olinger come chasing, really polished and jump well and travel well like he does. And he probably has let himself down jumping wise, but he's still won his races and he's won them well, and he's only going to get better in my opinion. So yeah, I'd be taking on Galopin.
Yeah, I think for many, this is one of the races of the week, isn't it? Even if it ends up with a small field, which we don't really want to see at the Cheltenham Festival. But I think just watching these two go at it.
2 run a race.
It really is fascinating because there's cases for Galopin, there's cases for Bob. Personally, I'd be sticking with you with going in the Bob Olinger camp. I just think the better ground, if you look what it did last year when it got better ground in the Ballymore, it became a much better horse than even what we thought it could be.
Do you know what's interesting in this? And these are the clips and the sound bites that punters cling on to. But Jamie Codd said last year, Brave Man's Bob Olinger was a God-given certainty, which was like the quote of the festival, wasn't it? He had it as his lay of the week for this year.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
This is what I mean. It is really interesting. There's so many different things with these two horses you could pick apart, whether you like one or the other. But you're with the lane of Galloping de Champs, and I guess only time will tell on that Thursday to see. So, Frankie, we'll stick with you for the each way pick as you were eager to have a look at it before. Who's your each way pick for day 3?
I'm going back to another mares race. Grand G. I'm trying, and I'm looking now around 13-2. I think again it's one that I think has a very strong chance of running into a place. Won a bumper beating Brandy Love, who's now favourite, at 18-1 that day, and has performed well. Even the 4th behind Mighty Potter and 3 Stripe Life and Far Out in a mixed sex race is not bad form at all. And then last time out in a mares race, was travelling very, very well. I'm just looking now, coming up to the second last or the last. Fell 2 out, travelling very well and in with every chance, and unfortunately fell, so we didn't quite see the full story. But off the back of that race and how she was travelling, I think overpriced in comparison to Brandy Love, who's the market favourite.
Yeah, I'd agree. Definitely got a big each way chance. And for me, Brandy Love, if I was picking a lay, it would probably be my lay, Brandy Love. I just think how far she jumped to the left. And I know she finished off the race well, but I just can't see a horse who does that winning this race, because there looks to be some really, really smart mares. And I think definitely each way shout, Grange's got a big chance. Paul, who are you looking at as your each way shout for Thursday?
I'm with Honest Vic, who's again another horse coming here with course form. He was 5th in the Coral Cup in 2020. He won at the showcase meeting later that year. He had a short, unsuccessful stint over fences, but he's had a nice run. I thought he finished 5th and 9 over hurdles at Huntingdon last time out, which should have sharpened him up mentally. Sometimes horses who have been chasing, when they come back over hurdles, they can just jump a little bit big over the first 1 or 2 hurdles in the races, which if you do that around Cheltenham, you're on the back foot straight away. So I'd imagine this was a bit of a plan from Henry Daly back then, prior to Huntingdon. That run should have sharpened him up. Henry Daly said at last weekend that his piece of work last week, his final piece of work towards the back end, which would have been last Saturday, he'd never seen him work as well. So I think Honest Vic can outrun his odds in the pair times final.
Yeah, definitely. And if you go back onto the Winners Enclosure channel, our YouTube channel, we had an interview with Ollie Bell over the last few days, and he put this horse up as his nap of the festival. Pretty similar to what you've said. It just looks pretty much set up. Even though like a 9-year-old, you look at off a marker 141, that 5th would have just been there to sharpen him up and get him in the race.
Exactly.
And it's been nibbled that from 33s into 20s now. It could possibly get shorter if people get behind it. I think it's definitely got a really, really big chance, each way chance, definitely. I think it's a solid each way shout on day 3. So the final day of this year's festival obviously brings a close to the meeting, and the Gold Cup's the race that stands out, doesn't it, across not just on the Friday, across the 4 days. Paul, who's your nap on day 4?
I'm with Galvin.
Yes.
Yes, has to be. He's been very good. He's answered every call. He was very good last time out in the Savills Chase. And if you look back, he didn't enjoy the clearest of passages. Rachel came up. I think maybe if Rachel had to get a second crack at that, she might have just delayed her run ever so slightly, leaving the back straight. She made up a lot of ground in a short space. But Galvin had his run checked upon entering the home straight, which done him no favours. He's a winner round. He's twice a winner around Cheltenham off the top of my head. He won the amateur race under Jack Kennedy last year, and he won, as mentioned in our previous podcast, our previous YouTube video, he won under Robbie Power at the showcase meeting at the beginning of COVID. He's answered every call. He worked well at Leopardstown, following from reports. Anyway, I've been very good at the beginning of this week, so I'm with Galvin all the way.
Yeah, like we've all said, I think we like the look of Galvin. Frankie, from your shriek, I think you're probably in the same camp, aren't you? Is he your nap on day 4?
Yeah, this is nap of the week in a Gold Cup. Can we go for that? I think this should just be, as Paul said, this horse is just getting better and better and asking every question, answering every question when asked. And I think it'd be one for the TV screens. He's a tough horse. It'd be a battle up that hill. Davey on board. He's a hardened character, and I think it will be a real. If he does win, it will be in a way, like I said, that'll be one for the TV screen. So I'm fingers crossed he does get the job done. But there's a lot to like about Galvin going into this race, and I'd have him down as my favourite.
Yeah, I'd say I'm definitely in the Galvin camp as well. The only thing I'd ask you both now, and I slightly worry about, is in past Gold Cups, we've had Native River go off, set the pace, something to aim at. Do you think it's slightly worrying that we don't know where the pace is going to come this year, that Galvin will probably need to aim at? Does that lessen your hopes with him? Paul, we'll come to you on this first. Do you think he needs a bit of a pace to aim at, and do you think he'll get that in this year's Gold Cup?
I don't think. I'd be more worried maybe mid-race the pace might slacken up. You'll imagine there could be, I'd imagine it'll be fairly helter-skelter for the first half mile or mile anyway, and then they've done it in previous Gold Cups where they've steadied right down. But I think he seems fairly uncomplicated. The race he won at the showcase meeting with Robbie on when he was relatively inexperienced over fences was I think there was only a handful of runners in that race. So yeah, I wouldn't have any issues with that. I think he's pretty straightforward. Yeah,
and another thing I do like about Galvin is I'm more for stamina over class, I'd say, in the Gold Cup. I think you just really need to stay, especially up that hill, and knowing that he's won the National Chase and was probably going to go for the Grand National this season before he's turned out so good, he'll definitely stay the trip. So definitely got a big chance. Frankie, we'll come to you for the lay on day 4.
I'm looking at this. I might just do all my 3 in the Gold Cup. I'd have the favourite in the Gold Cup, Happy Tab, beat, mainly because I'm so keen on Galvin. But I don't. Again, this is a horse I can't get carried away with. Second in the Gold Cup last year was one of the most impressive performances I've seen on a race course over 3 miles at Haydock. But I don't know. I just think if it turns into a battle, if it turns into a slog, it just doesn't seem to have as much fight in him as others in this Gold Cup, would be my argument. Jumps well, travels well, will stay, but a bit of a dogfight up the hill, I wouldn't be fancying A Plus Tard.
Yeah, I think if you're in the Galvin camp, you probably are going to be against A Plus Tard. And I personally think the 3 mile 2, I don't think it gets the full 3 mile 2, especially up that hill. I think maybe on a flatter track, but not so much at Cheltenham, proven last year. And you do look at horses that normally win on their first time going for the Gold Cup. There has been exceptions, but when you look at it going for a second time against Manella Indo, he had a good run last time, and Galvin, who's coming it off the back of winning it, you probably would say you could take him on in the Gold Cup. Paul, who are you laying on day 4?
I'm taking on State Man if he lines up in the county hurdle. He was very impressive at Limerick, having fallen at Leopardstown on his Irish and stable debut the time before. You're going to get a max field here, and this is only his 4th start over hurdles, let alone his 4th career start. He's round about the 4-1 mark. He'd want to be made of stern stuff to handle this. So at about 4-1, I'd be looking to take on State Man.
Yeah, I actually like State Man for the Martin Pipe, but I can see it not going there now. If it was to go to the county, I would be against it as well. I think, as you're right, a bit of less experience in a big bustle race, and I would probably want it to go slightly further. So yeah, I can see your case for that, definitely. Paul, we'll stick with you for the last shout, which is your each way pick for day 4.
Each way, I'm with Say Goodbye in the Martin Pipe. Top price, right about the 20-1 mark. I can see her going off a bit shorter on the day. Tactics will be interesting. She's a horse that was generally, overall, she likes to be, as Gordon's horses, like to be up there with the pace. She likes to be in the first 4 or 5. However, last time out, she was dropped out. She was given a beautiful ride atop by Robbie Power to stay on. She was a good second. Her form overall is pretty consistent. She rarely runs a bad race, and I think she'd well outrun her odds in the Martin Pipe.
Yeah, really impressive at the Dublin Race Festival, and I think it's been overlooked in the market, definitely. So a really nice each way pick there. Frankie, to finish us off with the each way pick on day 4, who are you going for?
A bit cheeky because nearly a favourite in Top Bandit for the county hurdle. But I'm struggling with this Friday, I've looked over the handicaps enough times, and I'm not really settling on anything I fancy too much. Hence me giving a 5-1 each way shot. But yeah, Top Bandit for Gordon Elliott has looked impressive. Converted from or did a lot of his racing on the flat and got an RPR of up to 108 on over the flat, and then won at Cheltenham when they turned it into a little bit of a sprint. They went very, very steady, and over the last turned into a little bit of a sprint and managed to pull it off there, and then did the complete opposite at, was it Leopardstown or Punchestown over in Ireland, where kicked on clear over the second last and just kept travelling and travelling. So I don't really see many faults in this horse so far, and it's off a very fair mark of 139, which based off the back of a couple of wins and quite impressive, I think it's pretty fair. I don't see any issue with how it travels. It was a flat horse. It'll gallop on down that hill nicely, and yeah, I haven't really seen it do a whole lot wrong so far. So yeah. Top Bandit, it's 5-1, so you know it's not much of a big each way shot. It's one that you'd probably back and hope to cover your money with a place, and hope it wins. But I think it's quite a safe bet, Top Bandit.
Yeah, I think you can get 11-2 as well now. So
bit a few pennies back.
See, this is the thing with the Top Bandit. I really like the horse as well, and I think if you look at it, it's got a lot going for it. As in, early on in its career when it was running in bumpers, it's finishing second twice, 18 runner fields, and then when it's gone over like hurdles, its first race in a 16 runner race, finished third, and it's a course winner at Cheltenham, so it'll know. I know it might. I think it might be a different track it's going down on the Friday.
Yeah, will be. Yeah,
but still, racing at Cheltenham is very different to racing anywhere else, and having that feel for it can only help the horse, I think. So yeah, definitely got a chance. So lads, what we'll do just before we finish is from the naps you put up, and I'll put up a nap as well. So we'll give the viewers a sort of a treble if you want from our naps. So Frankie, what is the one out of the four you've gone for that is your nap of the festival?
I was going to see if Paul went for Constitution Hill or not. Wow. I mean, you can steal that one if you want, Paul. Otherwise, I'll be on Galvin.
Yeah, I'm the same. I was going to go either or Constitution Hill or Galvin.
Okay, there we go. Between us, we got the pair of them then.
Okay. And I'll put up Dino Blue in the Mares Novices. I think it's got a really good chance. So as a treble, quite a nice price treble actually. I think about 9-4, 5-2, and 4-1. So that'll be. I think we'll get a lot of people coming back if that wins.
Hope so.
Yeah,
I think that's a fair price for a little Trixie.
Oh, definitely. So, lads, thanks for all the picks. Thanks for all the insight. That's all we've got time for today on the weighing room. And be sure to like this video and subscribe to the Winners Enclosure channel with now only a few days to go to the 2022 Cheltenham Festival with plenty of content on there. Cheers, lads. Thank you.